Welcome back to another Supercoach video with me, JD. You were joining me for the round one review. It is quite late, it's almost midnight, so we're going to try and get through this as quick as possible, see how we go. This video is probably going to go in three components. So the first, I'll have a bit of a talk through, I guess, what happened with my team with the Darcy laid out and where I'm at. Secondly, I might go through some of the games and players I think that stood out to me. And then thirdly, going through, I guess, the trading strategy for round one. So yeah, like quickly for me, I guess just short of 2,300, which has put me around 25,000 overall, which is neither here nor there. Round one ranks kind of don't count for too much. There's a long way to go, and you get a lot of one round variance, obviously. So having a look at the team, what is this? Oh, they've got a tutorial here. This is pretty clever. Nice, good job. All right, well, we don't need that. So yeah, the big thing for me obviously was Darcy was a laid out who I was planning to run, and really what I was weighing up with was Hall and Gawn, or Crisp and Crisp and Darcy. Basically like one safe pick, one kind of risky pick, and where I wanted to place that. And I thought that the better place was with Darcy, but he was a laid out. And I think what's really frustrating is we knew Fife was going to be a laid out. They had talked about his knee, they talked about him being rested or whatever and needing another week, but we had heard nothing about Darcy. He played the weekend just before in the Amy game and was fine. So yeah, that's really frustrating for him to pull us on at last minute. Part of the reason why I went with Darcy over Gawn was to keep the structure flexible in case things happened, and that backfired in a big way. So it wasn't a great start to the round, but how I decided to fix it was really weighing up two options. And if you followed me on Twitter, you kind of saw some of the thought process. But effectively I had Chapman in defense, and then obviously Darcy's laid out. So if I was going to fix Darcy by going to a less than ideal ruckman, then I was going to fix Chapman. So kind of like trading a mid-price risk from the backline into the rucks, which isn't where I normally like to take them. I'm a bit riskier. And I'm still not like super comfortable with how it's played out, but that's what I decided to do. So Darcy down to Wits, Chapman up, and we've got the 5 Primo defense at the moment, and Primo, I guess, is pretty loose or liberal application of that term as it currently sits. The other big decision that needed to be made with the team was, do you go Hayes or Dixon, and do you go Baldwin or Martin? And so what I decided to do here was go for job security over scoring potential. So I knew Hayes had better scoring than Dixon, but Dixon had better job security. I knew Baldwin had better job security than Martin, but Martin had better scoring potential. And I thought this was the safer route to go. And if, for whatever reason, one of Martin or Hayes kind of scores really well, secures their spot, then I'm happy to do one correction trade. And who knows, it might not even need to be Baldwin or Dixon that I do this trade with. It could be Durden, Rochelle, someone else. So going for job security seemed much safer. If I need a correction trade, great. Much safer route than going the scoring premium route. And you could imagine a world, I mean, because Owens, for example, is one that is picked on scoring premium, but like you have Hayes that doesn't score well, you have Martin that doesn't score well, and they have no job security. So not only are they not scoring, then they're dropped and you don't see them for the year. You get into a really bad situation like Waterman last year. Now, as it turns out, Martin dropped 5 goal debut game, and Langford went down with a hamstring, who would be one of the people that would be holding him out of the side for best 22 anyway. So yeah, I'd say Martin's earned his job security, and then Hayes is a little bit less clear. I mean, he obviously played amazing, but they do like playing Ryder in the side, and I'm not sure if you can play Ryder, Marshall, and Hayes. Even though Hayes is an undersized ruck, so he does have flexibility. Yeah, that's like, don't know about that one, but it looks like these are two pretty bad misses that I'm going to need to fix at the moment. And then, yeah, so I guess like just quickly whipping through the players. Crisp, by name and by nature, the guy is a spud. And this is so frustrating because he was in one of my like players I haven't had in my team all preseason, shouldn't pick. And I was really adamant on why, which is that I don't think he's a good midfielder. And in game one this year, we saw that he is not a good midfielder. He is a spud. He has zero instinct around what he's meant to do at a stoppage. He doesn't know where to stand. He doesn't know where to receive. He doesn't know where to run. He doesn't know when to tackle. he just stands there lost. He was on Machida Owens, the first game that did nothing for multiple stoppages and couldn't find the pill. Like, this is so frustrating. And like really worrying. I mean, obviously, part of the reason here is to go for safety. So he's going to play 22, but if he's going to put out scores like this, it's really, really bad. Really bad. I cannot stress how bad it is. Dawson was, I mean, this is almost a disaster here. So I ended up going Dawson over some of the others just because so much had gone wrong. I just wanted to pick a player that I believed in and that I really liked and I wanted to cheer for this year, which was Dawson. And like, there's a bunch of other reasons. Like, I knew the role, I knew his profile in terms of games played, age, why he was leaving, what had gone in the preseason. There was a lot of things that pointed to him being a breakout candidate this year, and that got thrown away in the first half where he scored like 24. And then they finally got it together, put him behind the ball. He had a 75 point second half and was really, really good. So hopefully they persist with that. There was a few weird changes here. So they had Miller down back, who was performing awfully. He got moved forward. And then you had Hinge, who I think also got pushed up the ground a little bit as well. And that really killed his scoring, which isn't great. Yeah, that's quite frustrating. And like, he's probably a sit behind McCarthy now for next week. Yeah. Oh, what? Yeah, okay, great. Bugs. All right, Ridley, this is going to be a hot topic this week. Oh, so on Chris, by the way, like, you shouldn't trade. Just wait another week. They play Adelaide this week. You hold on and see if this improves, if they fix things. Do you know what the worst part about this as well actually is? In the preseason, when he wasn't playing midfield, they were putting him behind the ball. So I thought the downside here isn't too bad. But this game, they were moving him to the forward line, and that is terrible. He's got even less instinct forward of the ball than he does behind the ball. There were a couple of really nice plays he did have in this game, though, which was like entering 50. He had a couple of great kicks. So I really hope that they figure out that they need to put him behind the ball when he's not playing midfield, not in front of it. But I get that that is hard to do with a lot of the rebounding types. They've got Dacos, they've got Pendles back there as well. But yeah, he does not work forward with the ball. That is not a good move. All right, Ridley. Yeah, this is a hard one. So, yeah. I was going to talk about this, I guess, when it got to the Geelong Essendon game, but Essendon fell apart here, and it really was in the midfield. So Geelong had like 17 scores from clearances to Essendon's 3 or something like that, which is ridiculous. They destroyed them like plus 45 in contested possessions. And what you saw is an Essendon team that couldn't really defend at all because there was no slowing the ball down coming out of centre stoppages or stoppages just full stop. And as a result, you don't have situations where defenders can peel off, intercept, spoil, etc. You've got the ball hitting Hawkins and Jeremy Cameron while he was on the ground in the chest. This was compounded for Ridley by a couple of other things. So you had Laverty go down, then you had Stewart needing to swap across and like them fiddling around with defensive structures, which wasn't great. He had some calf problem, which I think was just a cramp. That's one we need to monitor during the week. And then they were so desperate for forward options once Langford had gone down that they decided to play with like Ridley going up forward for half of a quarter as well, which is the most concerning thing. Like, he is not a forward. They figured that out early in his career. I don't know if this was just them playing around with structure to figure out if Francis should come in this week or if it was because that cuff was bothering him and they just wanted to put him up at a point in the ground where he could, like, he didn't need to run as much. But oh my God, it's so bad. Yeah, like, I can't describe in words how bad that is. So this is a big watch. So is Crisp. The preference is not to trade any of them, and you shouldn't be trading this week. You should give them another week and see what happens. Hopefully Essendon's midfield rebounds this week, actually puts on some defensive stuff, goes back to what they did last year, which was tackling. That was what they built the game on, like becoming a blue collar team. So if they revisit that, hopefully this frees up a little bit. But yeah, like, there was a lot of odd things. Like, Kelly was coming up the ground, Cutler then played more defense. Like, it was, I don't know what was going on. I hope we don't see magnets like that again. Short was pretty bad and scored a 109. So I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. Yeah, but I mean, like, look at the rest of my defense. Honestly, Dawson's the only pick I'm like really thrilled with over him at the moment. So whatever, I guess I can't complain. Whitfield was like, he was up and down. So he had periods where he just disappeared, and I didn't get to watch this game as closely as others, but a big theory here is that Whitfield just doesn't do as well on smaller grounds, which are Corey's. I think his only other game there was like a 43 or something like that, which I'm guessing was injury affected. Wouldn't have been a full game, or it might have been when he was a rookie. I don't know. But yeah, like let's just see what happens there, because he definitely had periods where the game did open up and he was rebounding, moving through, getting receives, doing some nice stuff with the ball, and then you had periods where he just went missing. So not really sure what's going on there, but that is one that you wait and see. And like for me anyway, Crispin Ridley had the much bigger concerns than Whitfield, so he's always been a little bit up and down with his scoring. McCartan was good, played pretty well. I was actually surprised that he got up to 70, but we take it. Geelong obviously just destroyed Essendon. We saw what happened with Ridley, so fielding him over Hinge is not like ideal. I mean, Hinge played Collingwood, which is a pretty nice matchup, but now I'm unsure about his role. So yeah, we'll see what happens with the team ins and outs this week as to what goes on here. But Hinge was good for the first half until he got moved back. He was on 40, 44, something like that at half time, and just faded out once they adjusted all those roles, which is annoying because there's a lot of scaling to be had in the second half, but he didn't get to chip in. And then STK was all right, but I think has got a concussion. So he's going to be someone that's probably out for a week or two. You just have to hold him on your bench. Like, that's it. Most people are in the same boat here. So the good news is that they are the Friday game. So there's potential to loophole here. Or maybe not this week, but maybe some of the other weeks. Let's have a look. Round 3. Oh, round 3, they're the Swans are the Thursday game. And then, like Geelong play. Oh, yeah. So round 3, you can use him as a loophole with McCartan and Hinch. So if he can't really be used this week, but he could be used next week, which is cool. Or you can use him just as a captain's loophole this week. In the midfield, so McRae was great, Took Miller was great, Neil was great, Rao was great. 4 strong picks, all worked out, all looked good. We're very happy with those. Not much more needs to be said apart from like Rao, my guy, is back. He had 33 touches and like 22 were contested. Phenomenal. Berry was good until halftime, where he was on like 70 and then did nothing for half and copped a shoulder knock. So wait and see on what the news with that one is. Apparently he was like, shaking people's hands and celebrating after the game and stuff like that. So hopefully not too bad. But yeah, this is like a wait and see for like, do we need to correct here? Because 70s for a 270k starting price isn't great. I can downgrade him to Nick Martin and get just the same for 102k. And I bank 150k in the process. Horn Francis was good. Everything he does is Supercoach friendly. I think from his first like 6 touches, 5 of them were involved in scoring chains for North, and that was what seemed to be the only avenue they could score was through him. So he played really well, and I think bounce one, he had Sicily manning him, so no slouch either. So it's not like he was doing this on easy opposition. Yeah, makes me want to go back to like Crispin talk again about how the fact that he was on Owens and still couldn't find the ball. Like seriously, it's the first gamer that did not play well and you were still lost. Like, why did I get convinced to pick him? This should have been Stewart is the smart pick or Hall. But yeah, like Stewart is who this should have been, and that's really frustrating. Dacos was great. Everyone's got him. There's not really much more to say. I mean, we're going to get defensive eligibility hopefully for him around 6. George was saying he's going to be a keeper. I don't think he's going to be a keeper, but he's going to be a very nice cash cow for us. Rao might be a keeper for us, so that could be cool. And then Ward was disappointing, so he's not getting. I mean, they've got a bad matchup this weekend with Port Adelaide as well. Swans don't exactly have a great one with the Cats, so I'm not actually sure what I'm going to do here so far. Oh, yeah, actually, no, I do know what I'm going to do here, which we'll go into a little bit because I'm going to break one of my trade rules. And Stevens was pretty good. I should hold his spot, mature age. I think he can build off this. I think he's going to be a solid rookie for us, so very happy. If you don't have him, he doesn't look like it's like a disaster compared to some of these others that we've gone through, but yeah, not too bad. And then McDonald, I think, like built into the game as it went on, was better in the second half than the first half, which was kind of the flip of Ward. Should hold his spot, but you want to see slightly better scores than this. Oh, and like Ward, by the way, if we get another score like this might be a correction here too. Like potentially Berry, Ward, Ridley, Crisp, all need to be corrected on my side, which is a lot of corrections. Oh, and Owens does need to be corrected. I don't think he's playing another game. I mean, he played 49% game time and scored 2. Why are you picking rookies, St Kilda, if you were going to give them 49% game time? You just shouldn't have picked them. Like, if they're not ready to play the game, they're not ready to play the game. I don't know what this is. It's not good for the, like, I'm not talking about just from a Supercoach perspective. This is from like a team perspective. This wasn't good. And by the way, like, really frustrating because he got CBA's Owens, like, and he was a well-developed junior, that performed well when he'd had time during the preseason. This is so unseeable. This should have been a pick that worked. He had a really good role. But yeah, low time on ground, couldn't get into it. And like, there are a couple of times, like he could have had a goal in the first quarter, but they paid the free to Hayes rather than to Owen, stuff like that, which is like, yeah, anyway. All right, so Grundy was good. We talked about him being a lock all preseason, and he came through. And then Witts was obviously my Darcy replacement, and this is much better than what I'd hoped for. So absolutely running with this. I thought the upside for Witts is obviously that that Miller, Rowell, Anderson combo is probably the best trio he's had to tap to in a while, and that might give him some upside. And we did see some pretty good hitouts to advantage. I think in the first quarter he had 6 and he ended on 11, and I thought he got the better of Nick Nat for the most part. His time on ground wasn't too bad either, so I think it was 77%, and I was thinking they'd probably put him around 75%, given he's a big man coming back from ACL rather early, but this pick still worries me a lot. I've got to get him to the buys and hope that he doesn't get banged around and injured too much, and he did already cop a bad knock during the game, much like Rao did, and kind of got up from and kept playing. Dixon, I thought was okay without being memorable. They have North this week, so I'm hoping that, given how average North was against the Hawks, that potentially Dixon can string together a few goals and be a serviceable rookie here. And then forward line, I mean, Dunkley was great, Butters was great. Cog started slow and built into it. This 80 for his price is fine. I think some people were hoping to be a keeper. Maybe not the case at the moment, but yeah, this is great. McGovern I thought was really good. His role looks good. Like, pretty happy with this pick. And Cherry is an interesting one because he did get the ruck one role. I mean, it was still very heavily shared with Goldie, and I think he did enough around the ground. But the big question for North is still, like, is playing Cherry, Goldie, and CCJ all in one side possible, workable? His post-game press conference said that, like, he didn't think that them playing 3 talls was the reason for lack of defensive pressure, but I do think it's something they'll review during the week. So yeah, I'm just a little bit worried about job security. And then Rochelle was amazing on debut, as was 2 other rookies that I don't have, by the way, in Hayes and Martin, which is a big problem for me. And then, yeah, Durden was good. Really, this looks like a solid pick. And then Baldwin, not great, but I mean, in that game, Essendon didn't really have much of a chance. So I don't know whether this is going to be a bad pick or not. I think he spot holds. I think, if anything, they bolster the forward line with Francis. But yeah, this is not great. All right, so just quickly going through the games. What was my other one? All right. I'll try and bring up the screen so at least there's like something to look at on this side. All right. So just quickly going through just quickly going through some of the games. So yeah, Petrarca obviously stood out, but like wouldn't be trading to get him. English stood out as well. Wouldn't be trading to get him. I guess like this English's score kind of depends on whether Martin comes back or not. Gone. Oh, so for those that picked Gone, like, I'm jealous. I wish I had Gone rather than Witts at the moment. He's gone 90 around that, like, every round one since 2018, I think it is. Like, it's 4 or 5 years he's done this. I wouldn't stress. He looked good. He moved well. I don't think he was sharing that much more ruck time with Jackson than what you would have expected if you were picking him. You knew this wasn't going to be a value pick. You were getting your 115, 120. I still think that's about what it is. So yeah, don't panic, don't trade, hold on to him there. Yeah, Treloar, hopefully no one picked because injury prone and didn't even score that well this game. And he had another injury concern, right? I think I'm blanking on it now. I'm sure he did. McRae we talked about was good. And then Dale was actually like really decent as defender. What's interesting in this game is that the Dogs picked up 8 tons to Melbourne's 3. And so it's interesting to figure out, like, is Melbourne a side that's going to be easy to score on this year? Or is it just this is what the Dogs normally have done, suck up all the points, and are teams that come up against them going to struggle to score? I think it's probably the latter. Oh, and then finally, like I mentioned a couple of alternatives to Chapman, which was Ed Richards and Blakey. Richards and Blakey both did really well this week. I mean, Blakey was kind of expected with Lloyd being out. I don't know if that'll continue. And then Richards' game, I was really impressed with, and I think he got a bit of praise from the Dogs afterwards as well. So if you went with those, great. Chapman, of course, finished on an 80, but he honestly deserved a 55-60 at best and got some mega scaling through that game-saving spoil and clearing kick at the end. But yeah, like I don't know. I think he's better than what he played, but he also got a really undeservedly high score for that game at the same time. And then just on Oliver and Gone, they had so many clangers, like 8 or 9 clangers, tons of frees against. This is not what you're going to normally get out of them, so I wouldn't panic. These are just holds, are really, really obvious holds. English, similarly, like he's not going to be ruck one. I think they're going to bring back Martin, and he also got like 7 or 8 frees, and like that's not going to happen all the time as well. So wouldn't worry about that too much if you don't have him. Can I get to the next game? All right. So Carlton versus Richmond. Oh, and by the way, like footy was great this week. Outside of the Geelong Essendon game, I enjoyed every game that I watched. I thought they were much better, and the rule changes are really good for that. So that was like big positive. So Carlton Richmond here. Oh, Doherty. I mean, how good was he to not only be back but be close to his best? Like that was great viewing. Very happy for him. I know there's one lass in the Discord that's got Doherty, and props to her, but I'm not sure I can endorse that pick. I'm not sure this will keep up. Obviously, this is a really good Supercoach scoring game for Carlton. You've got Doherty inside both off half back that went 130 or 140 basically, and then you had all the Carlton mids go 120 plus, and they just destroyed Richmond there once Prestia went down really. So yeah, is Hewitt going to be a must own? Is that a downgrade option for Crisp or Ridley? That's going to be the big question this week. And like, please wait. So Crisp has got an easy matchup with the Crows. So definitely get another game to wait and see. You're looking for Essendon to bounce back and the defensive pressure, to actually set up Ridley to play defense properly. And for Hewitt, they're going up against the Bulldogs this week, which we just talked about, the Bulldogs sucking up big scores, and really they've got one of the better midfields in the competition as well. So you want to see how does this Carlton midfield hold up against a good midfield rather than probably one of the worst in the league in Tigers. Cripps was obviously good from a Supercoach perspective, and he played okay, but his score was padded out by goals, and I think a couple of things as well. A lot of his kicks inside 50 were just shocking, like middle of the ball, going who knows where. And I'm not sure that keeps up. I'm not sure it does. So if you've got him, great. Wouldn't be trading to him now. I'd be waiting for another game as well. Once again, see how they do against the Dogs. Already touched on Durden McGovern, which I thought played really well. And then the only other rookie in this game that's worth touching on is Gibcus, right? Oh, we mentioned Short, like he was fine. Was Gibcus. So this is okay. I mean, like a 56-60 average isn't enough to make 150k at his price tag, but it's also not bad enough that you need to correct him to another pick. And given you're paying for job security, which I think he's now got, like it's okay enough. Not ideal, but if you wanted to go for defense rookies, then it's okay. It's not a disaster. St Kilda Collingwood. I mean, this is another one I think people are going to overreact to a little bit, especially on the Collingwood side with like Lipinski, DeGoey. Like I can't see this Collingwood midfield getting on top of too many other actual midfields, and St Kilda was shocking. Thiel's scoring output was a little bit worrying, but he also started slow last year, so maybe this is just a trend with him and we start to see him pick up soon. I mean, St Kilda as a whole was pretty unimpressive this game, and maybe there's going to be a bit like last year where they're quite up and down, and you just get a part where they go on a streak and some of their scores really explode. I don't know. The highlights here were Hayes and Marshall. So, oh, and by the way, if I wasn't going wits and like a premium defender, I was going George Hewitt and Marshall. And I must say, like, mine worked out okay, but the Marshall Hewitt probably would have got me a better score this round. But anyway. And I think actually I recommended a lot of people go Marshall in Discord just because some of his numbers looked pretty enticing. Like he could actually become a premium, especially if Ryder doesn't come up from the injury. So yeah, like not having Hayes is not great. I know some people got to field him as well, which was amazing for them. But yeah, not to be for me. I want to wait and see another week before I figure out if he's a must trade in. They have the last game of the round against Freo. So if Darcy's back, I think like Darcy and potentially Meek against Hayes, Marshall is like pretty interesting matchup. We'll see how that goes. On the Saints side, the only other player that's relevant, like some people own him, is Gresham. I think he got scaled up a fair bit at the end because I don't think he was tracking this well, and I don't think he's a particularly great pick. He's not going to get a mid-time. He's 300k. But I mean, look, I believed he is someone that could have been a top 6 forward at the start of the year before he had an interrupted preseason again. And that's what's holding him off. I don't think this will keep up. And obviously they don't play Collingwood each week. So yeah, they're gonna play some better teams, some better midfield. So who knows? On Collingwood side, Lipinski looked really good. And look, like after Lipinski and Shields' efforts, I was almost a little bit worried with my Rao bet with George. But hey, my boy Rao came through. He came through. Can you imagine all these mid-price mids like Cripps, Lipinski, Rao, like Shield did well as well. They were all going crazy. You had Newcomb as well, which we'll talk about shortly. But yeah, like Crisp is obviously the really disappointing one. We talked just about like how much of a spud he was. I hope they fix that out and figure it out. Dacos was great. To go was good in parts as well. But yeah, not much else to discuss there, Supercoach wise. Geelong Essendon, as I mentioned, dreadful. Martin was great. Ridley was not great, but I don't know how much of that was on him versus our midfield versus like whatever happened with the calf versus whatever was going on in the coach's box. Baldwin, yeah, difficult for him to have a good game just with the lack of service up front. On the Cat side, Dangerfield was allowed to do whatever he wants. Stengel was very good in debut. His price is, 270-ish? So if he has another big game next week against the Swans, maybe this is someone that you can consider trading in if one of the mid-price forwards fails. Stewart was great. I mean, he could have done much better if Essendon put up any fight whatsoever. So I think this is a really strong pick. Going to be one of the defenders this year as long as that foot holds up. Really not much else of relevance in this game. Oh, Caldwell was actually like pretty decent. Got more mid-time than what I expected. Yeah, I want to move on from the Essendon game as quickly as I can. All right, Giants Swans. I didn't get to watch as much as I would like. So, like, I want to put out Blakey because Blizzard is someone I've been like bigger on as one of those defensive mid-price options. Thought he looked really good, but obviously you got Lloyd coming back next week. So even if you were thinking of trading something like that, which I don't know why you would, you should be waiting a week to see what happens with Lloyd back on the side, what his scoring looks like after that, what his role looks like. He's not going to be getting as many kick-ins, these types of things. Heaney was great, but I mean, like anytime he's kicked 3 goals in the game, he's always gone this large. He's obviously underpriced at 80 or whatever he is, which is why he was in my team for so much of the preseason, but structure kind of dictated that he got pushed out. But man, that's like I know George stuck that with him and got rewarded. So let's just see how this goes. I mean, this is against a good team as well, like a good midfield in a close game. So yeah, props. I think he might be able to keep it up. Taranto, I mean, yeah, I think he did still play forward and managed to go 120. So this is really confusing. We were hoping we were going to get him cheap around 6. He was going to be parked forward, and then Green would come back and we'd be able to pick up Taranto. But if he puts games together like this, ain't going to be the case. Yeah, so Cogs was good but not great. Whitfield wasn't great. We want to see an uplift there. But I don't think this is the least of my problems, and probably is the least of yours as well. McInerney potentially copped an injury. So this is one you have to keep an eye out for. And then Sheldrick was, I think, like a relatively laid in, or like, no, he's a surprise selection and scored 43. It's probably not something we have to worry about. Oh, Oh, I forgot to talk about Owens all the way down at the bottom, but yeah, just try not to scroll down that far. He wasn't good. I don't think he's getting a game this week. And probably someone that we can move on from pretty quickly. I hope he actually does get dropped this week so I can do my trades kind of guilt-free, which I'll get to shortly. Where are we up to? We missed a game. Brisbane Port. So yeah, another great game here with Brisbane kind of running away with it at the end. Neil was obviously really good. Boak in first games are crazy, and then Houston was clutch for Port late, but wasn't enough to bring it back. Butters was really good, which is what we expected. We just need his body to hold up. On the Brisbane side, so Daniel Rich was a defender that some people have been keen on. Did okay. I think the big concern obviously was that he had a hard fall and had some problem with his hip pointer or something like that got taped up. So he had a lot of time off the ground getting that fixed before coming back on. And that hurt his scoring a little bit. I still don't think it would have been an amazing score without that, like maybe low 90s, but given some of the other defender options, like it's, yeah, not terrible. Berry, we mentioned, talked about already. I mean, Rayner said he was a bum pick all year, and like, yeah, he was a bum. He was a bum. He actually played okay. Supercoach perspective, he just doesn't accumulate enough for him to ever be relevant, I don't think. I'm sure I'll have some big games here and there, but just not across the course of the season. Aaliyah going down with the injury, I think it's meant to be 8 to 10 weeks, is somewhat interesting. It could open up a spot for Skinner in defence, so that's one to look at. And then Mead was pretty good as far as rookies go, so if he holds his spot, this could be someone that you could sideways to in the midfield if you really needed to, but I don't think he's essential by any means. Hawks North, really surprised North lost this, to be honest. Really surprised. So Luke McDonald went crazy down back. He used to be a premium. So this is somewhat interesting if they keep this up. I mean, he had a lot of intercepts, which probably isn't what you'd expect. But he's a 350k, I want to say, defender. I actually can check this while off to the side here. So 372k mid, not a defender. Which is like an awkward price, because are you really going to pick him over a Rowell or a Lipinski? Maybe not, but I guess the positive is he's going to get defender status at round 6, and then you could swing him back if you think he's going to be a primo. Get a fair bit of value out of that too, which is interesting. Would you pick him over someone like Hewitt? I think we have to wait and see another game. Who have North got? West Coast. Oh, geez, that's not a great game to learn from, just given the state of West Coast at the moment. Okay, well, it could be an option. Put it on your to watch list. Same with Newcomb. So Newcomb is also a cheap mid, I believe. 260k mid, and he went off. Mitchell loves him from his time in the VFL. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on him. Sicily, I only watched closely for the first half. I didn't think he was particularly great. Butchered the ball a bit, but yeah, a 105 is very nice for his price. McGuinness scored well for decently well, but from memory, he had butchered the ball a lot early, and I still think he's going to have problems holding his spot once people like Day come back. But who knows? I mean, McDonald and Ward were poor. Did they persist with them? I'm not sure. On the north side, Hall was obviously really good up until halftime. Just before that, he tweaked his ankle, I want to say, on ground, which seemed to slow him up for the second half. I was thinking he might have redone his hamstring, but doesn't look to be the case. I mean, as long as Hall stays fit, he's going to be one of the top defenders for the year. So if that is someone you want to risk on, then you definitely can. Cherry I mentioned was good. I just don't know what his job security is like. Corn Francis was good. Was anyone else? Oh, Taron Thomas, who was a bit of a preseason favourite, did not score well, 48. Okay. And then LDU put in his one big game for the year. Hopefully he can string a few of those together. All right. This was a cracking game between the Crom and Freo, and I thought Crows were going to get over the line on the back of Rochelle's heroic efforts. Amazing 118. I think it's a bit like Jimmy Rowe last year. Rochelle's going to be up and down depending on the game, how he can work into it. I mean, he's just a great footballer, so I think there's going to be lots of opportunity for him to get involved. But yeah, don't expect these from him every week. Keys, who Emperor from Twitter was like big on, I don't know, he's like the whisper of like random mids because Cam Guthrie popped from nowhere last year, and maybe he's right on Keys too. Keys looked pretty good, but I think Laird being out of the side helps him for now. I don't know what his role looks like once he's back. Hinge and Dawson we touched on. Miller was on my do not start whatsoever list, and he looked terrible. He wasn't good in defense. He did a little bit more forward, but yeah, no good. And then Zaligo, not sure he holds his spot. He did things all right in when the ball was near him. He was all right. He just had a hard time finding it. Brayshaw was good. Time of ground was up as well. He could actually break out this year to top 8. Yeah, Chapman already talked about getting a bit lucky. And then Brodie's the other big one to talk about here. He was good. He found a lot of the ball, played well. But when the game was on the line in the fourth quarter, he was nowhere to be seen. Played a third of the fourth quarter, 20 minutes on the bench, and pretty much the last 20 minutes, I'm actually surprised his score wasn't scaled down more than what it was. And this is really worrying for Brodie owners. It kind of suggests that he either can't run out of games or they don't trust him to put him on, at the end of the game when it's on the line because he can't run anymore. He can't do the defensive stuff. I wonder if he holds his place if Fife is back, and I'm somewhat interested in trading him in if he can. So he's obviously a wait and see for this week, and I really hope that Fife's named. If Fife is not named, I don't think there's any way that you could pick up Brodie next week. And then finally, West Coast against Gold Coast. I mean, look at those three on the right. The holy trinity of Rao, Miller, and Witts. Oh, watching this game, I don't think we're gonna get another game as good as this for the Gold Coast boys this year. So enjoying it while it lasts. That's well over 400 points between them, and obviously Miller was captain, so it would be over 500 for me. Crazy. In terms of other Supercoach relevance, nothing. And then on the West Coast side, we obviously had a few of the fill-ins. Foley played well. From memory, he's a 244k defender. Let me just have a quick look. Yep, he is. So potentially another option if Chapman doesn't work out this week. And then you had Naish, who was a 180k forward mid, 63. It's an okay score if you picked him, but obviously not as good as someone like Rochelle. And then you had Hoff in the midfield, so 47, which is kind of in line with McDonald and Owens. I mean, he does still look skinny, but I don't think that's a cause for major concern at the moment. And then Dixon put together an okay 42 for a 102k. Really, like, this is below kind of the average he needs to make 150k, but as long as he spikes a couple of games with goals, you're going to make enough cash there in the end, so not too big of a deal. All right, so finally, let's just touch on then, I guess, like a little bit of trading strategy. So, rule 1 in week 1 is you do not trade premiums. You do not sideways trade premiums. You do not waste trades on this. I cannot stress this enough. I will not be trading out Crisp. I will not be trading out Ridley. I won't be trading out anyone like that unless they are injured, and you should not do that either. The benchmark, remember, for a trade is 150,000 in cash, or you've probably got to be making at least 200, 250 points over the course of the year from that trade, which means I need to be convinced that whoever I'm trading Crisp to, for example, is going to average more than 10 points a game than him for the rest of the year. Now, that could be Stewart or Hall, and it is worth considering, but realistically, you want the extra game of sample size, which you get for free for this week before prices change, and then you make that decision. On the rookies, similarly, I would not be trading anyone yet. The round 1 score is the score that counts the least. It only is included in the price cycle once, and then it disappears. So, you don't know what's going to happen the second week. You don't know what's going to go with this scoring. You could see a lot of these things flip. Baldwin kicks a bag and goes 90, and you might have Rochelle have a really quiet one and drop a 20. You just don't know. And so trading after week 1, when you once again get a second week sample size for free before prices change, means you wait. The trades are too valuable to be speculating at this point in the year. Now, the only exception to this, as I mentioned, is already around injuries, or if you think that you need to make more than 2 corrections next week. So for me, I'm missing Martin, I'm missing Hayes, and I potentially might need to fix a Crisp, a Ridley, or a Berry, or a Ward on top of that. So I don't want to use a trade boost for fixing next week. And the reason why is because those trade boosts we're going to use to upgrade quickly to get points on the field, midfielders on the field faster than other teams. That's the plan. That's what we want to use a trade boost for. When it comes to upgrade season, we're getting in an extra trade each week, and so we finish our team faster. So the one trade I'm considering this week is Owens, who I'm predicting to get dropped, for Martin. And the reason why I kind of already mentioned, which is I think he's played himself into the best 22 for a reasonable period of time. I was worried that with a Snelling and Stringer both out, that they would come back in and knock him out. But with Langford also gone now for at least a few weeks with a hammy, and him obviously playing better than guys like Ham, Guelphy, and you could even see him be played against ahead of Cox at the moment, who they want to put time to develop. But, this seems pretty safe. His scoring potential is high. His role is good. And we've seen him do it for a couple of games now to believe that this is real. So this is the one trade I'm thinking about doing this week, which once again breaks my rules, but it's only because I think there's a strong likelihood I need to do 2 more correctional trades next week, which is not a good position to be in. My aim after the first 2 rounds is to only do 1 correctional trade. Uh-oh. I'm not allowed to trade. What's the uh-oh? So yeah, I'm hoping that Baldwin goes good, and I don't want Hayes to score well next week, and I want Ward to come good. So yeah, we're gonna wait another week and see what happens. All right, and now in terms of captain, vice captain, and all that type of stuff this week, it looks like DeConning will be the loophole option. So on Friday night we have the Dogs playing, so McRae VC makes a lot of sense. Then Sam DeConning on field, who could be the captain. And if that captain option fails, we've got Gold Coast against Melbourne, which could be all right. We've got Lockie Neal against Essendon, which could be a bloodbath. Those would probably be the 2 that be looking towards. Otherwise, Grundy against Adelaide might not be the worst option either. All things to consider. Dunkley vice captain might not be bad either. If Bontempelli's out, Dunkley's going to get a lot of mid time, and he could be a serious vice captain consideration as well. So, yeah, one to look at. And then, so obviously I've moved Rochelle to field. I think with them playing Collingwood this week, there's probably a chance I play him over Ward. I don't like the Sydney-Geelong matchup for Stevens, and I don't like the Port Adelaide matchup for Ward. In defence, this is a little bit tricky because I'm not in love with either of these. I'm pretty worried about Hinge's role. It probably makes most sense just to stick with whoever's averaging more out of the 2. So I'll go McCartan here for now. I mean, Rux is an easy choice in the forward line. It's going to be do I start Durden against the Bulldogs, or do I start Martin against the Brisbane Lions? And just because Martin rolls good, and he scored well even in a thumping, the kid tries hard. So I guess I'll pop him on the field for now, and that'll be the change for the week. 50k banked, which is nice because it does give me a little bit of flexibility if I do need to do another correction next week or a couple of corrections. But yeah, that's what the team is. Thoughts on the games, thoughts on players, thoughts on trade strategy. So covered a fair bit in this nearly, how long has it been? 40 plus minutes. All right. So we're going to sign off here, but let me know how you scored, how you're feeling about your team, what stuff you're weighing up and considering, and I'll see you all on the next one. Peace.